I wish she'll do that more often. The smiling thing. Oh my god! Hey internet, it's Jessica and welcome back to The Letter. So, it seems like Zach is gonna go over to the Ermengarde Mansion to talk to Hannah, but then I just remembered something. Since we are, like, the timeline's all messed up every time we switch out character, Hannah's probably not there. I mean, remember, she is supposed to be leaving because she's separating from Luke. But then again, she might stay just because of what happened to her. I'm a little bit concerned of, like, if I made, like, the wrong choice of, like, showing the picture to Hannah rather than Ash. But we'll find out. In hindsight, this is a dumb idea. That is to say, rushing into a client I barely know's home first thing in the morning with news of a ghost lady potentially haunting their newly bought property. Oh, and there's a bunch of bizarre-looking pictures of Miss Hannah I've brought as proof, too. So yeah, dumbest idea in history, and my dumb idea is all things considered. Traveling to the outskirts of the ancient village at the crack of dawn with only my bike as company, equally so. Personally, I don't think if any of them would take whatever I'm going to say well, no matter how nice or accommodating they are. Ashton himself would tell me the same thing. Odds are, he'll laugh at him in my face for a good measure, if he doesn't freak out at me first for not listening to his warnings. Still, that's a whole separate can of worms I'll open in a different time, seeing as I'm already standing in front of the Wright's front porch, waiting for someone to answer the door. More than anything, Miss Wright needs to know there's a possibility nothing safe in this house. Warnings from friends to be damned.
If only someone would answer the door sooner. Come on.
Johans? I try to ignore the looming presence of their large, ornate door gives off as I press the doorbell for the fourth time. Its shrill ringing merely echoes, carried off by another warm passing breeze. The first time I came to this place, I found myself basking in silence it offers. Now the atmosphere is just heavy, packed with trepidation and tension. Isabella's right, it does radiate a creepy kind of vibe. And with the image from the day before constantly flashing in my mind, the unease becomes harder to ignore as each second drifts by. Not wanting to spend more time than here necessary, ring the bell again. Another long second ticks by without anyone answering the door. If this fails, I can always go to Ash. Not really the most sensible course of action either, but waiting here ain't doing me any good. For all I know, the Wrights could be out of town. As luck would have it, just as I'm about to turn on my heel, a loud thump rises from the other side. It follows by a heavy foot trails and a sting of very colorful expletives about one's patronage.
Didn't we have that bloody annoying doorbell replaced yesterday? That Irish charge has cost me a fortune and she can't even fix this nuisance. And where the hell is Johans? If another po-faced prat is pressing that blighted bell, I swear I'll cut that.
Yikes, and Luke is the one who opens the door. Oh man. The door swings open and a very irate Mr. Wright greets me. His particular rumple appears a clear testament to how early the hour is.
And who might you be? I don't recall asking the movers to show up this early.
I was prepared to face Mrs. Wright, their butler more so, but Mr. Wright, I don't quite know what to make of him yet. He surely knows how to make an impression, I'll give him that. A bit a rude one. I only caught sight of him yesterday as he was directing the movers, although from how exasperated he sounds then, it seems like more yelling was done than actually giving up directions. Needless to say, I like to believe those instances ain't all there is to the guy. Miss Wright, at the end of the day, did marry him. Standing before him like now, though, is a different story altogether. Despite the differences in our respective heights, he manages to make it appear like he is the one who's looking down at me, not the other way around. An apology instinctively forms on my mouth before anything else when he arches an eyebrow at my lack of response.
Well, that's not exactly why I'm here, Mr. Wright. Yeah?
Right, of course, the one and only. And what can I do for you this fine morning?
I really wish Johans answered the door.
Have I seen you somewhere before? Bloody you peasants all look the same to me.
Why is this guy such an asshole?
Yeah, I'm actually...
It doesn't matter. I don't care. I've got someplace important to be at today. Just spit out what you want or be gone. I haven't got all day.
His eyes are sharp and expecting in spite of his indifferent tone. The very impression of someone whose sharp wits has served him well throughout his life. The kind you have to carefully choose your words around. Discerning how his simple conversation can easily seem like a ruthless form of social maneuvering, I can see why Miss Wright would want to steer clear of it, if only for the short while. And sometimes the only way out of the game is to be honest. I'm a friend of Hannah, I'm a photographer. I don't think I should say, hey, I'm a friend of Hannah's. Because, I mean, like, yeah, they're being friendly, but I don't know. Are they really friends? And at the same time, remember, Hannah and Luke are having problems. I don't want to cause any more trouble for Hannah. Because, you know, I don't know Luke's story, but I still don't like him. But if we're being honest, we are here on business because we're here. Remember, she ordered photos from Zachary. So, I mean, technically we are giving her photos, even though some of them are creepy. But, like, that's what we are, right?
I'm in luxury living, sir.
He eyes the business card and hand him with complete passive expression. He turns it between his fingers without really reading the letters printed before handing it back in the same blast manner one usually reserved for people below their station. Or a nuisance. With him, it seems more the latter than the former.
Mr. Steele.
Just Zach would do, sir.
I can see why. You should hear what they say about my name. Although I'm of the opinion those don't sound as unpleasant as yours to the ear.
Did he just turn all of a sudden nice? What the hell just happened? Wait, let me see my relationship. Okay, it didn't do anything new with Luke, but all of a sudden he's just like, oh, check it out, we have, like, funny names.
Amusing what people can come up with in their leisure time, no? Well then, to what reason do we owe this second visit, Zach?
I guess because he's like, oh, it's business, and it's a magazine, so I gotta turn on my business, like, standpoint.
Right. Like I said earlier, I'm the photographer from Luxury Living. I'm here about the photo shoot yesterday, and...
His eyes narrow at that, mouth tightening into a small frown, passive stance dissolving into a rigid one. It ain't completely a lie what I came here for, but it ain't the whole truth either.
Didn't you already wrap that one up? I believe my wife was the one with you then. You even mentioned a little tete-a-tete with the photographer.
The hell does that mean?
That was you, wasn't it?
Yes. Actually, sir, there was something I forgot to discuss with your...
And you had to show up at such an hour for something you forgot. Why wasn't there any notice about this little visit?
It was an error on my part, sir. I do apologize for not letting you know in advance.
Terribly unprofessional for someone going under the name of an esteemed publication like Luxury Living, if you ask me. Of course, even if there was a word of some sort, that butler does not check my emails as often as I would have liked. But straight up walking in here this early isn't the most sensible thing to do either.
The matter was a bit urgent, and my art director wanted it done as soon as possible before I hand him the finished prints.
Not my problem now, is it? A common courtesy would be to wait for replies before barging in.
I mean...
You do well to remember that.
In reality, yes, you shouldn't show up at anyone's house, but like, God, we can't just be like, hey, I want to see your wife, because that just sends the wrong, like, message.
I once fired someone before they could even submit an application. Sent an email in the morning and suddenly sauntered in the office looking knackered mere hours after. Bloody walk-ins. That aside, unfortunately you're going to have to come back some other day. You see, darling wife left not a moment to go. I have not an inkling where she went, or when she'll be back. So you're better off.
Love, is it the movers?
This asshole's lying about it. He starts speaking altogether, and the complaints expression he has collapsed on itself. Slowly, he turns just as his wife walks up to him with a step too lively to comfort, a smile too sweet to be honest. She's very likely heard everything her husband and I have talked about.
Going off somewhere.
I've got the few things I want them to transfer already. Marianne made this splendid arrangement for the music room and...
So wait, is Hannah not leaving the house?
Love, are you listening?
I thought you already left, Buttercup.
She musters a frown, a pout more like. The mischievous gleam in her eyes when she glances at me says there's all I need to know. I would have laughed at her antics if it wouldn't have offended the other man. But as it is, it's better to let the wife have her fun without any reaction from me. I'm treading on dangerous grounds with him already.
Well, I most certainly have not left yet. I wouldn't be standing here if I did, would I?
Of course you wouldn't be, darling. But don't you need to be somewhere else today? Something with Marianne, shopping, girl, things?
Oh, I'll be leaving in a few. Unless you want to join us.
Unless this is before the party. I think this is before the party, right? I think. I don't know what timeline this is, so I can't remember.
Oh, no, thanks, darling. I'm afraid my liver is killing me today.
I thought as much. You needn't have to worry. I'll be gone in a few. It's just that I heard we have a visitor. What kind of person would I be if I didn't greet him before leaving?
A very gracious one, I'm sure.
Zachary, right? Zach, it's a pleasure to see you again.
Likewise, ma'am. I was actually looking for you.
Is that so? What for?
A huge display of
Oh
unprofessionalism is what it's for.
Shush, darling. Let the man speak. I'm sure it isn't anything like that if he has to come all the way here, yes?
It's about yesterday. The photos you asked, I mean. The copies are ready, but...
My hand still as I'm about to fish for the prints out of my pocket. A short second passes that which strikes me how I didn't think this through at all. How I'll go about telling her regarding the strange photos or revealing this to her in the presence of another person. Her husband gazing over us like a hawk doesn't provide any sort of comfort either. And just like that, all the words I have been practicing to say on my way here inevitably fail stiffly on my mouth. Miss Wright must have noticed my hesitance because surely she gives her husband's arm a gentle squeeze, a tender smile gracing her face. Unlike the first, this one is meant to appease.
Love, I think Hansi might need some of your input for the final guest list. Could you check on him, please?
Bollocks! Why in all Luxborn do I have to be there? Doing tedious jobs are what he's being paid for.
Because if we end up with people whose faces you do not want to show in our housewarming party, we won't be hearing the end of it.
So this is before the party. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Unless a heavy dose of liquor's involved. You know what the doctor said about that.
Why did you have to say that?
Please do poor Hansi and your liver a favor, hmm?
He can handle that on his own, Buttercup, and my liver is doing just fine.
I'm sure it is. But I don't know, love. I think I caught a glimpse of the name Mitch Lakes, was it? I think it was Mitch Lakes on it when I checked with Hansi earlier. You should see for yourself. It was quite a list.
Who put that blighted twat in there?
And that's why I'm asking you to look over it before I do so tonight.
Very well.
But even with that promise, he doesn't appear ready to leave. Short of passing through their doors, he stops and glances back at me, all without bothering to hide the distrust in his eyes.
Look, dear, I'll be fine. Go back to your butler. I'm not some pregnant wife you have to worry about.
The foreshadowing! Am I right?
Fine. I have to go to that little ankle biter's career day later anyway. I don't see why I have to go there. Kylie's your goddaughter.
And yet, she has you around her little fingers, darling. That's basically the same thing.
If he has ever had an answer to that, we don't get to hear it above the heavy thud of the door make. And Miss Wright's own wary exhale after she assures her husband is out of the earshot. She's nothing but apologetic when she fixes her gaze back to me, but I can't help but return the same to her.
I am so sorry you had to deal with that. My husband can be a bit trying when he really applied himself.
It's fine, Miss Wright. No harm done. It was my fault for showing up here unannounced. And this might be strange coming from me, but he does have the right to be wary. The press can be quite vicious when it wants to be.
Caught unexpectedly, they'll pick you apart. It's not surprising why he acted the way he did around me.
Sweetie, if Luke treats every journalist who shows up here like that, I'm afraid we'll end up with a harassment lawsuit hanging over our heads sometime in the future.
Yeah, probably.
Vicious or not, some sort of finesse has to be exercised when dealing with them. I'm sorry, I hope that wasn't too offensive.
Not at all, Miss Wright. Besides, I don't think an interior design magazine would be interested in who harassed who this week. Unless it has something to do with fighting over tastefully arranged furniture. But even then, I don't think our readers will be too interested.
Oh, dearie. You've got a lot to learn. You really have no idea how a single tassel can ignite a spark in a crowd. Of course, at the end of the day, it's still the thought that counts. It's still a lovely anniversary gift from my husband. No matter. Let's just go.
She doesn't wait for an answer and immediately wanders over to the car parked some distance from us. Unsure, I find myself trailing after her. A chauffeur automatically opens the passenger side door as she nears, and she gestures for me to follow when she climbs into the back seat. Yeah, where are we going?
I need to get out of this stuffy house for a while. Moving in, planning the party. It's starting to get suffocating in there. Luke and Hansi can have their fun while I'm gone. I don't care. I'm getting up because I can. Another minute in there and I'll drown.
My bike.
There are, of course, a lot of things questionable about her invitation. Why she's asking a person she only known for less than 2 days in the first place is one. How appropriate this is being to another. But the rest of it crashes the moment she shoots an imploring look.
Please? I can have someone send it back to your address later. And it's just a trip to the city for some furniture. Nothing more, I assure you.
Okay.
Marianne will be with us, and maybe you can tell me why you're here on the way.
Guess it wouldn't hurt.
This is, I feel
Might have to leave
weird.
early, though.
Like, okay, honestly, like I said earlier, I wasn't sure if I want them to be romantically involved. It's just weird because she's still with Luke, you know? So it's just kind of like odd, and I don't, obviously they're not in a poly relationship, they're in a monogamous relationship, so this is very weird.
Excellent then. Hop in. That's what they often say, yes?
This can't be a good idea, but I really don't have any other choice, do I? Especially with the way her eyes light up when I agree to it. In my pocket, the very picture of her remains faceless, a voiceless shadow hanging threateningly between us, unknown to her. If someone told me I'd be spending the entire morning being dragged around downtown Luxburn looking for furniture, I probably would have simply smiled at them. Then perhaps even given them a good friendly pat on the shoulder and wished them a nice day. Not that I find anything wrong with this at all. On the contrary, this is most definitely a nice change of pace after a few weeks of getting bogged down by several freelance gigs and shutting myself inside apartments whenever I can. If only the weather would be a whole lot nicer, the kind with less sun and more clouds perhaps? With the mid-morning sun slowly beating down on us and a high noon approaches, I can see why Mr. Wright skipped out on this trip. The bright side is, the whole thing seems to have put Miss Wright in a less somber mood. After the fifth store, her pace is considerably livelier. Her gestures less guarded than the one she displayed at the mansion earlier. The presence of another might have helped as well. Oh, this is awkward. Because Miss McCullough, Marianne, likes Hannah too. Wow, this is really awkward. Although Miss McCullough seems less predisposed to small talk, preferring to keep herself most of the time and let Miss Wright lead us whatever, she did acknowledge me with a small nod when we introduced ourselves earlier. But that didn't make any standing outside the store together any less awkward while we wait for our client to finish her inquiry inside.
So, interior design,
This
huh?
is awkward. She cast me a long-side glance before returning to her notes again, her pen scratching faintly against the paper in a quick successive strokes. There goes that. I did say I'm not good at starting or keeping conversations going, didn't I? She doesn't look back up again, and I can take it as my cue to stop any attempts of striking a dialogue with her, and keeping myself occupied with some other thing. Except that what we have here is just Luxborn and its busy streets, people going about their day like normal, cars moving in and out of sight, heading to who knows where. Nothing remarkable, really. The ease with each person can fade into the background here is a reflective of the kind cities Luxborn will always be. But the humdrum's one thing I learned to live with. Needless to say, it doesn't usually stay with that. There are times when it would come alive, make itself known, and resort itself back to the world. However, those moments are few and far in between. Then again, with the graces of the new channels lately, I'm starting to think it's going to happen sooner. Can't say I'm looking forward to what it'll bring.
Luxury living, is it?
Her voice effectively cuts through my thoughts just as I count the 13 pass by wearing a hat today. Besides me, I can hear the faint rustling of papers and clicking of her pen as she stashes them back into her bag.
Excuse me, what?
The magazine you're working for. It's Luxury Living, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You've been featured by them before, I take it?
A few years back, yes. For just some issues. My designs still appear from time to time, though not as frequent as before. Gotta have room for new talents, right?
It may not show in her face, but the pride is evident in her voice.
Good folks, the people running the publication. Tell me, is DK still on the editorial team?
I wouldn't know. I've only started taking jobs from them this year. Freelancer, you know.
Good man, that guy. Anyone in our field should meet him. He had a lot of things to say about art, all of them relevant. Learned a lot from him, actually, even if we both came from two different fields. I hope he's in a good place. I haven't talked to him in a while.
Well, this is awkward because Zach doesn't even know him.
Anyway, your portfolio must have been good if they gave you the job. They don't easily assign big features to freelancers like this.
I wouldn't say I am, but experienced, you know? The more you practice it, the more you learn the tricks of the trade. That kind of stuff.
I know what you mean. Still, you've got to keep up with the competition. Each year, a new talent emerges, and, well, you never know. Clients can be a bit fickle-minded with their choices. Believe me. Speaking of, do you think you'd be up for a new client after this?
I think so. Depends on how big the project is.
She reaches into her bag again, this time to pull out a business card which she hands over to me.
When you're free, send your portfolio to Chris. He's my assistant.
Well, hey, if we get another job, why not? Thanks, Marianne.
He's been looking for a decent photographer to help with updating the studio's portfolio. Nothing urgent, but the sooner the better.
Not sure if I'll have the time to squeeze this in. But, alright, I'll give it a go once.
Marianne, could you look this over for me?
At that very moment, Miss Wright emerges from the store. When I look back to Miss McCullough, a mask of professionalism has returned to her, or at least to what it's trying to be. There's a different light in her eyes as she faces her, a flicker of familiarity and recognition. I'd say it's fondness, but that would be too presumptuous. She has a crush on her! I think everybody freaking knows that, right? Whatever, it doesn't last, and briskly swept under her firm tone, the firm tone her voice assumes.
Definitely. Is there a problem?
They said they don't have the colors you suggested. Do you think we can change it around for a bit? It might take a while if we insist what we want, and you know I'd rather not worry about this later.
I think it'd be better if I handle this one myself. Excuse me.
What is she gonna do? She walks into the shop without another word, leaving the two of us standing outside. As soon as she's out of earshot, however, Miss Wright lets out a giggle and swipes the business card cleanly off my hands. She smiles, a bemused little thing spreading across her face, and waves the card in front of me. I wish she'll do that more often, the smiling thing. Oh my god! It suits her more than the other ones she frequently shows on the media.
I look away, and the next thing I know, you're picking up women.
I'm pretty sure she's gay,
on
but you know.
streets while the sun is high, no less. I'm not sure if I should be appalled or amazed. Whatever happened to the Zach I met a day ago? About as tall as you. Photographer. Quite the gentleman. To tell you the truth, I'm a bit disappointed he's gone.
It ain't like that, Miss Wright. And I'm sure Miss McCullough is not the kind of woman to let herself be picked up by strangers.
Yeah.
Let alone people she barely
Even
knows.
if she wasn't, like, gay or anything, she would just be like, I don't want you picking me up. She's that kind of person.
Oh, shush. Let me have my fun. And didn't I say you can call me Hannah?
She gives the card back to me nevertheless, and with it, her mood fades into a more pensive one. An odd look settles on her face, yearning, a bit wistful, and she looks back towards the shop's display window. There's nothing remotely interesting in front of it for when I follow her line of sight, though. A few trinkets here and there are for a rug, a sofa, a wooden side table, and a lamp, all tastefully picked and arranged to resemble a typical antique living room. On second thought, it does look comfortable, but why they added a crib beside it baffles me. Yikes. Again, it's like foreshadowing she's actually pregnant. Or it's just like about Rochelle, like being pregnant with Luke's baby or something, I don't know. Unless, of course, the people they're hoping to market for are those who already have children or about to have one, then maybe it's fitting. Particular choice of decorations aside, it does make a nice icebreaker, if not the same level of weird and completely out of the blue. It still leagues better than the awkward silence, which is definitely too out of character for a personality like Miss Hannah's. How should I start the conversation? Do you think a crib would make a good gift? I think that one looks cute. What kind of... Yo, Zach is too awkward. What kind of, like, conversation starters are this? I mean, do I want to flirt with her? Or just be like, hey, check out that crib? I don't freaking know. Let's not talk about the crib. I think that's a little bit weird. Let's just say, hey, that looks cute.
Ooh, I think that one looks cute.
Hannah balks, to my surprise, shifting 2 steps away from the window to glare at it with such vehemency, as if it's something remotely scandalous. A funny say was taken out of context, and I probably will be laughing, really, if I understand what warranted such a reaction from her. Why is she blushing?
I wasn't looking at the crib.
Oh.
I wasn't really talking about the crib, Hannah.
Very good then. But it wasn't the crib, all right.
Alright, I get you. But that's not it. Honest. I was just saying the stuff that was on display there looks nice. Or at least as nice that it can be compared to the ones we visited earlier. But I'm sure your interior designer has something different in mind for your mansion, so don't mind me.
I was hoping that would be enough to cut the topic short. Instead, she sighs, leans on the wall closest to her, and runs her hand through the lock of her hair. There's a far-flung look in her eyes, even as she fixes it on the concrete curb.
You need to stop looking at people like that, sweetie.
I'm afraid I don't quite catch your drift, ma'am.
I suppose you wouldn't be aware of it.
More of what?
Do you know you always carry this kind of phase? Like you're always staring at the world with this honest look. Like all there is to see is all the good in it.
Frankly, I don't see anything wrong if it's like that. I mean, there always has to be something in it. You know, a sprinkle of kindness here and there. Otherwise, we'd all be miserable.
For you, maybe. Some people have to fight through it just to see that. And kindness...
Oh, no. I skipped what she said. Oh, no. What did she say?
And kindness isn't always a great thing to have around. Sometimes too much of it can hurt.
It makes you wonder where this is coming from, how bad things are really gone for her and to have this view. I do understand her sentiment, really I do. Still, when is the last thing you can cling to when things have gotten irreversibly bad? Sometimes you simply don't get to make a choice.
Besides, the point is, it's impossible to lie when a person is looking at you like that.
Oh.
Or I could, but I'd feel like a horrible person afterwards. Did you hear that, Mr. Zack? You just made me feel like a horrible person. I sort of wish I had one like it. Just so people would stop lying to my face.
Or you can start by being honest with yourself. It shouldn't be quite hard.
For her, it kind of is.
Friends don't lie to each other, don't they?
Oh, are we friends?
I guess so.
So what was the lie?
She draws her breath, lays a soothing hand on her stomach, and...
That it was really the crib I was looking at earlier, silly.
She's pregnant.
Alright, Uncle Zack, it's cute, but the pattern's not to my taste. I'm pretty sure Marianne could do something about that, though. At the moment, what I should really be worried about is if I'm ever going to be a good mother to this child. Ned, I can't even tell the father he's going to be one in a few months' time.
Oh my god, I was right! She is pregnant!
Probably doesn't even want anything to do with this whole pregnancy thing.
Oh my god, I feel so bad for her though. If he didn't impregnate her best friend, Rochelle, that's awful.
What am I going to do, Zack? Because right now, I'm absolutely at a loss.
Oh.
A beat.
Oh!
Oops, I skipped again, sorry. The realization strikes at me like a ton of bricks suddenly beating down on me. More than astonishment must have shown on my face because Hannah lets out a chuckle. The slump in her shoulders disappear altogether underneath her mirth.
Don't look so surprised, dearie. Tied the knot 7 years ago, remember? Don't you think it's bound to happen?
She brandishes her hand in front of me. The assuming silver band on her finger glints against the late morning sunlight for a second. She eyes it lovingly, almost tenderly, despite the traces of sadness in her voice. For all I know, there's an entire story there. I'd ask, but that would be too inappropriate, even for friends. It's not my place to meddle to begin with.
Or at least that's what they've been saying early on. My whole social circle would be saying it's a long time coming.
But the kid is something you want, right? Because if it ain't, then that's a whole other problem.
Of course. I wouldn't deny I've been hoping to have him or her for a long time now. But then, now that we're here, all of a sudden, there are a whole lot of other things to be worried about. Business, a new home, public image, my own husband, and I don't know. I didn't really have anyone for a role model. I practically grew up with nursemaids pampering me every step of the way. What if it happens to this baby as well?
Well, then you don't let it.
Oh, I can already see how this will end.
Huh. I guess it's not just my sister.
What?
You and my sister. I mean, you're both having jitters or something like that. That's what it's called, right? First baby jitters? Mind you, she was really convinced she'd do everything wrong then. He even called me in the middle of the night. Has to switch places the day she found out she's carrying a new member of the family. Never mind how utterly impossible her request is.
I'm quite sure I haven't done anything of that sort yet.
Oh, you don't know that? My brother-in-law has been telling me things 5 weeks into my sister's pregnancy. Since she's one cranky pregnant lady. Man, good thing I found a place for myself years before that bundle of joy arrived, huh?
It can't be that awful.
Who knows? I think we'd better leave it for Mr. Right to decide, yeah?
Provided he comes around. He just sounds so repulsed every time the idea is brought up.
I feel so bad.
Then maybe you should say it to his face.
Yeah.
No mincing of words or beating around the bushes.
And if he says no?
You haven't even told him yet. Besides, that's his kid. Don't people usually say fatherhood changes men? I wouldn't call myself a living testament, of course. But there ought to be something that will hit him in that idea alone.
A wrecking ball would be nice.
Laughter escapes me before I can stop it, and for a moment, I thought I had done something wrong when she doesn't join in. He's still her husband, no matter what jest or complaints she hurls about him behind the media's eyes or in the presence of people she trusts. But when she does, her chuckle, a small hesitant one, sounds at first. Find the rest of my unease slipping away.
Well, whatever it is, my point is, you've got no idea what will happen. In the same way, you don't know if you'll be a good mom. Trust me, my sister's been there. It's perfectly normal. If, my opinion matters, though.
A long second of indecision goes by. I can feel her eyes, filled with nothing but curiosity, boring into me while she waits for her rest. it's just simply sentiment. It's just a simple sentiment, but one thing I think she needs to hear is the fall of the doubt she unwillingly placed it on herself. I'm just not sure if it should come from me. I'll be damned.
I think you'll be a great mother, Hana.
If she has an answer to that, I don't get to hear it, nor does she get to say it. As soon as it comes out of my mouth, the bell hanging over the antique store chimes, and comes out Miss McCullough. For more than one reason, I have never been so relieved that our talk got interrupted.
Everything's been taken care of for tomorrow, Mrs. Wright. We'll have everything you requested delivered early. I've left them instructions, but I may have to visit again right before your housewarming party to check for a few things. I hope that's acceptable to you.
More than Marianne. This is a little early to say, but you did marvelous work with the mansion. I can't wait to see all of it come together tomorrow.
I'm only doing my job, ma'am. Needless to say, it's always a pleasure to hear a client is satisfied with my work.
Nonsense! You have every reason to be proud. I know you've already established your name here, but I'll still make sure word gets out, of course. I think I've got a few friends who might be interested in decorating their homes.
Hey, another free job.
I'll see if I can introduce you to them tomorrow.
I really don't want to impose, Mrs. Wright. There's still a lot to be done, and I'd rather be keeping an eye on it myself.
You know well enough I'll still do it. You too, Monsieur le Photographe. You better be the one taking the pictures for the event tomorrow, or I'll be very upset.
That's why he was invited to the party. I blink at her confused. Last I checked, I have nothing scheduled on my plate tomorrow. A couple of fleeting thoughts did cross my mind, like working on personal projects, but with the expectant expression on Hannah's face alone, I've wondered before how they got Isabella to sell them the mansion, with all the paperwork and the loops it has to go through. Well, now that how is already standing in front of me, it's one giant ball of persuasion in human form. If I had any doubts on how she got around life, all of them have been dispelled right this instant. Hannah hasn't said anything yet, but I already know what my answer will be.
What event?
Our housewarming party, dearie. I've already sent invites through your publisher. They should have informed you of it by now.
I may have probably missed it. I haven't gotten the chance to check my mailbox yet. Deadlines, real-life happenings, you know, they can be pretty hectic. I'll try later, but they might have already assigned it to a different photographer if they haven't received my reply yet.
That's not a problem. Nothing a little
She's
girl
gonna
from me can't
request him.
fix. I'll have them know I'm specifically requesting for your presence. It shouldn't be too hard. Just promise me you'll show up. I expect to see you both there. No excuses.
Good company, good music, good food. Of course I'll be there.
Lovely. I hope we have that settled then. I'd love to stay and chat, but unfortunately I have an appointment scheduled with the doctors after this. You two will have to excuse me.
So I'm taking a wild guess and saying Marianne knows that she's pregnant too, right? Because like the conversation earlier when she was talking about having the baby's room done, she was still asking, do you still want this to be done? So I think she knows too.
Are you feeling fine, ma'am?
It's nothing big.
Oh, wait, maybe she doesn't. I don't know. There's a short while in which her hand faintly touches her stomach while she says this. Her smile, and so she does, a tender thing in itself. She might never let it cross her mind, but motherhood would suit her. The kid is already loved, even when he or she has yet to have sense of the world. Candid moments like this, I wish I brought my camera for.
Sorry we had to cut this short. I'd love to have lunch with you two, but, well, you two know how it goes.
It's quite fine, Mrs. Wright. I need to get going as well.
Is it somewhere far from here? I can have my driver drop you off on the way.
No, please. There's no need for that, Mrs. Wright. It's just within the city.
I see. What about you, Zach? We did leave your push bike at the mansion.
Yes, how am I supposed to get home now?
Don't worry, I'll have someone bring it to your home later.
Nah, I live within the city too. A few blocks from here, in fact. I only visited earlier because...
Oh, the pictures. The photos. Damn, I completely forgotten about them. My hand grazes on the side of my pocket where I kept them since this morning. And sure enough, they're still there, waiting for the whole world to see them.
Because, Zach, sweetie, you're zoning out.
Miss
Oh
Hana,
no.
earlier, at the mansion.
Should I show her the photos? I don't know! Oh no! I mean, that's the whole point of why we came here, right? We're gonna show them. I do want to warn Hannah because I'm kind of worried about her. Would it be weird? I don't know. What if I do show her? No!
I think it will be better if you take a look at these yourself.
Seeing is believing, right? I reach into my pocket and pull out the photos, handing everything to her. Recognition flickers across her eyes when she reaches for them, and I have a stamp down on the tiny twinge of regret in my stomach for having the gale to show it to her. Only it cuts deeper in the instant both her and Miss McCullough's expression changes, and it's not a good look. To say she's repulsed by the total understatement. All this time, Hannah's been nothing but direct, saying what she feels, expressing what she wants. Away from the glamour and the camera lenses, she's a whole different person. But as she goes through each of the photos, I can't get an easy read on her.
Zach, dearie, what is this?
Your photos. The ones you requested copies of. I mean, they came out that way, and I thought you should know.
Oh, I get it. You know, I've heard before that artists can be a bit weird.
It's not like that creepy ass painting, which was the mirror, by the way, like in your husband's office.
Have you ever gotten that kind of comment, Marianne?
Not in my line of work, I'm afraid. Or ever, Mrs. Wright. I'd rather keep my personal hobbies away from my actual
No
work.
one's gonna believe
Let's dress
it!
Well, I suppose it just never crossed my mind that the saying applies to you as well, Zach. But talent's what's important, As long as you make good art, it doesn't matter.
Girl, I didn't make this.
No, you see, when we had that photo shoot yesterday, there was something.
I wouldn't say I don't appreciate it. I did ask for copies, darling. But would it be possible for you to give me normal-looking ones?
Is she like in denial about
Preferably
it?
with my head intact. I admire the effort you took to edit this, though. It looks authentic. Frankly, if I show this to some other person, they'd probably believe those silly rumors about the mansion. Good publicity, but not the kind I'd want for my new home. So please.
She drops them back in my hand like their very surface burned her.
If you could redo this, that would be wonderful.
Oh my
I'm positive you can do a better
God.
job than the one you just showed. Just try to keep the edits to a minimum,
Yeah. I can, sure.
You can take your time, of course. And speaking of time, I really must go.
She leaves without so much as a wave. I don't have to take a guess to know I've dismayed her, or in other words, weirded her out. Besides me, Miss McCullough shakes her head. What are the odds that I've ruined my chances with a job she offered earlier? Very high, I say. It's a foolish idea in the first place. Miss McCullough departs shortly after Miss Wright has taken her leave, muttering something about getting a quickly lunch before fetching, Bruthel? Is that the name of the cat? I forgot, from Chris. I don't know what or who Bruthel is. It must be important to her to be this kind of hurry. And, well, she doesn't seem to be fond of the small tasks. Something tells me we both agree on. Lunch sounds good, or a walk around the city maybe, but with the sun as high as it is now, nah. And after the things with Miss Hannah went, I simply can't muster the appetite for anything at the moment. If I didn't do anything with it right now, I have this impression it will rear its ugly head again. And by then, things might be too late to fix. What other choice do I have? Ash? Rebecca? In all likelihood, they'll just give me the same pat on the back and say, Z-Man, go get some sleep, you're at it again, from Ash. I talked to Isabella, but I haven't seen her around since she showed up at my apartment 2 days ago. Weird. There is one person, though.
Damn, I should have thought of that first.
Who? The priest? As it turns out, I do have another choice. I'm not a religious person. I won't identify myself as such, or rather, I can't. Sure, my grandparents didn't have to force me to go weekly, I'd happily join them. In fact, most of my childhood Sundays have been spent attending service. Simply that, as you get older, the more experience you get, forming your own beliefs on the things becomes easier, for the lack of a better word. That's actually true. I actually share the same view as Zach. Like, I was... my family is religious, and like when we were younger too, and I went to a Catholic school, like super religious, so we had to go to church like every week and stuff like that and whatever, and the idea of the religion was like pretty much ingrained into my brain. But as I got older, I was just kind of like, I don't really agree with this, and even now I still don't know like what exactly I believe in. I think it's fine that like when you get older you kind of like believe in your own thing. That's totally okay, and at one point it just stopped, that kind of thing. Nevertheless, I hold no disdain for it. Sometimes it does help when things are really bad, when the dreams don't stay where they should be. Talking does a bit. It's also a good thing for Father Norman's. Well, he's not completely a pious man you typically expect. My unlikely friendship only probably happened because he's the kind of guy who is cool with the younger ones, as he politely puts. And he is, surprisingly. It makes him easy to approach. like that one time with Isabella. I don't think he believes the ghost kind, but there he went. Maybe he has something to say about the photos as well? It won't hurt since I've already gone ahead with and went to Ainslam at daybreak on my bike. At the very least, I know I won't get shouted at by whoever answers the door.
Unless someone does that inside a church. I highly doubt it.
I don't think people do that. Despite its age, the Luxembourg Church is a thing of wonder itself, with its high vaulted ceilings and intricate stained glass windows. One of the many gifts in the Ermengarde family donated to the community in its early days. Oh, so they built this church? That explains why this is like the opening of, like, when you open the game, this is the menu screen, it's the church. So it's connected to the family. Yikes. Or so I heard from Rebecca. She mentioned this once, although most of it flew over my head then. At this time of day, the church is mostly empty, save for a few visitors and shuffling about, some muttering their prayers under their breath. The scene of burning candles and incense permeate the air, giving the place a general feeling of reverence. Pretty welcoming, all in all. Even so, I keep the noise my tread makes to a minimum. Disturbing the quiet feels like a sin alone. An usher points me out to the pew in front of the altar when I ask where Father Norman prays. He mentions something about the good priest not being in a good health, ever since he did a favor for a friend to bless an old house. What? This is the first time in days he's left his room. No surprise either, with his weird heat lately, even Becca caught something. Nervous little chap, the kid. Nevertheless, he led me close to the foot of the dais, with a reminder not to stay too long before walking off. A second later, Father shifts and stands. He doesn't seem to have noticed me, and I have given him a little tap on the shoulder. When he looks, though, to say he's surprised is an understatement.
Stay away.
Oh, wow! She's here! I mean, I guess it would make sense. I mean, she comes all over the city, right? If she's, like, around and whatever. But since her family built this church, I guess it's very eminent she would be here and following the priest because he blessed the house. Yo, her eyeballs, though, creep me out. That's what creeps me out the most. His voice comes out as a whisper, almost inaudible and hush, a quiet restraint in defense to where we both are standing. But the tremor is there. He's focused on me with a wide, bulging eyes, copious amount of sweat appearing on his forehead, despite the relative coolness of the place.
Father Norman?
Keep your distance.
What?
Hey, it's me, Zach, remember?
Stay away. Don't come near me.
It must be the fever talking, or whatever he caught. It has to be. I don't recall ever doing anything to him to drive him away like this. In all the years I've known him, he's been nothing but polite, nothing but accepting of people regardless of beliefs or status in life. I don't think he's talking to Zach, I think he's talking to the girl. For a word akin to threat to come out of him, it's simply beyond imaginable.
Go back to where you came from. Leave.
Father, what did I do?
Leave now.
I extend a hand to his shoulder. I meant to be reassuring, but he recoils, his ankles catching on the edge of the dais as he backs away. His shouts, when I attempt to reach out again, echoes through the ceiling, the entire hall, catching the attention of a few people inside. I try to keep the level tone, but with the stranger's eyes trained on us, panic starts to weave its way into me.
Stay away, demon! Go back to the hell you came from!
Father, it's okay. I only came here for some pictures I thought looked odd. I figured you might know something.
From my pocket, I fish out. Oh God, don't do it now, Zach! I fish out the photos and try to hand it to him. Instead, he strikes my wrist away, almost like an accusation, and sends the photographs fluttering uselessly to the floor. Helpless, I can only watch as he curls himself into the ground, a sad, blubbering mess, whimpering to himself. He tips his head forward and begins rocking his hands, clapped over his ears.
That accursed spirit, so full of anger and pain. All those horrible things I've seen. I can't sleep. I can't eat everywhere I look. Go away. Go away. Go away. You're not supposed to be here. This is a house of God. Be gone, demon. Lord have mercy, God our Lord, King of ages, all-powerful and almighty. You who made everything and transform everything simply by your will.
A number of people have moved closer, most likely just a gawk. Thankfully, as I save him to begin to usher a spectacle, two ushers come out, taking him away. One of them, the kid from earlier, shoots me an apologetic look. can't even return to him. Anxiety is a powerful thing, a firm little notion that clings, eats, and consumes you. I can still hear his prayers even as they drag him away.
May he keep at bay and vanquish every evil power, every poison or malice invoked against us by corrupt and envious people. Then under the protection of your authority may we sing in gratitude.
It rings, hums in me as I left to pick up the pieces of this chaos. Back to square one we go. If there's a salvation in this, I hope we find it soon. Okay, looking at the relationships, it went down with Hannah, which is not what I wanted to do. Even regardless the romantic relationship and whatever, I just wanted to show her because I wanted to say I'm concerned, but like at this point in time, the only presence of the girl she's seen was in the mirror, right? Where she thought it was a painting. This is before the party where she saw it standing behind Rebecca, so I guess that was the wrong choice to do. I don't know. I'm trying to like be honest to the other characters about what we see because I feel like that would help in the long run, but I don't know. Maybe I did the wrong. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like, let me know in the comments what you think, and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell button so you know when I upload the next episode of The Letter. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye! Hey, is there any better stuff? I'm just a normal lad who wants some alcohol. I can manage another drink, but not another one of whatever this is. A lot of them don't get any credit they deserve, so today I'll be talking about 5 awesome video game sidekicks. Number 5. Daxter. Jak and Daxter series. Daxter, the